Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat. It is I, Chewy, astronaut.
Cheers.
I've got a cup, so it must be true.
How are you, man? Good day? Busy day?
Off and on, actually. One of my colleagues described my behaviour in a quiet period as if I had gone into cat mode.
Oh.
And I was like, what do you mean
Were
by
you
that?
were you licking your own testicles again, Joey?
No, she was just like, you're looking for attention and are being very annoying about it. So
Fair enough.
I quite like that, and just started going meow 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 meow, and then knocking her pen off the table.
Cats
So
are
she brought that
assholes.
on herself.
Yeah. Busy day for me. I have spent a huge portion of today talking to suppliers in China about beanies and caps. Now, you all know that we got some of these things done and that I was pretty unhappy with it, that it's basically just a pressed on print.
Which isn't good on a knitted sort of thing.
I haven't done it yet, but I imagine if you pull real hard like this, it'll probably split them. And I got on today to start looking at mugs and looking at enamel pins. And funnily enough, the Alibaba sort of algorithm today got the person who we sent those beanies to us by chance to just contact us today saying, are you ready to order now? To which I said no, because the quality was crap. To which they said, oh, maybe we should do some embroidered ones. And I went, yes, please. And they said, if you pay for postage, it'll be free. And I said, thank you very much. And so they're going to send us some more beanies that are embroidered as opposed to those presses. And I said to them, you know what? If you're going to do it and you're going to give us them to order, why don't you throw in a couple of caps as well? And as we all know, Pat has a cap addiction. And so I've said, I like to wear 5950s. So stylistically, it needs to be something like that. If you get a couple of those embroidered and send them as well, who knows, Chewy, before Christmas, could have beanies and caps and, ready for it?
Is my mug on a mug?
Maybe some mugs?
Goodbye, astronaut cup, you piece of shit.
And, Chewy, I have literally in the last half hour just paid over a whole lot of US dollars for 600 enamel pins. So they are ordered and paid for and will probably be here within 30 days. Now, the mugs. Let me say one thing about the mugs. We're just giving you a bit of a heads up. It's interesting how you get to the end of all these conversations and negotiations and then they tell you what it's about. So I'm going to probably be ordering hundreds, like each order of 100. And they said, yes, that's fine. Unless we have to do, and they didn't use the word bespoke, but a bespoke color, then the minimum order is 3,000 pieces. And I was like, So I think it's safe to say we will be ordering the black and white cups. All right. So there's a BHN, fuck around, find out tax. We'll definitely be ordering them. And then we'll have to see of the other ones, what are bespoke colors and what they have in stock. Because as much as we love Nikki No Boats, we're not ordering 3,000 of them because this blue isn't quite in stock. So there will be some mugs on the way. I'm not entirely sure which ones they'll be when. So they must actually
right on a white mug.
Maybe.
Right.
Yep, maybe. But the other thing is because they're minimum orders of 100, I was going to get 50 of each, 350 total. I might just be able. The budget might just stretch to get four.
Now,
I
know that there are people in our chat, people that watch us that work for the IRD, and I did notice there that we had a mug that says tax wealth more, tax work less. And I'm just saying, might look quite good in a staff room at the IRD.
Maybe we could come up with some kind of idea that if you've got a government email address, if you order it from a government email address, maybe there'd be like a 40% discount or something. It could be could be that one. Could be that one. That would be quite nice sitting around Parliament or some
Maritime
ones,
Union, looking at you.
Yeah, Maritime Union. Maybe you do a 10, 20, 30, 40% for them, our Maritime Union friends. Yeah, I don't know. Just putting it out there. And to be honest, I have probably spent 4 or 5 hours on that today, because you order. Today I ordered and I paid for the pins, and since then I've spent an hour of answering questions afterwards that I've paid. And I'm like, oh yes, we need a black. Yes, that one does need a lip around it. No, that one's fine. So there you go, Whānau. So the first order is in place. The mugs are being talked over as we speak. The caps and beanies are being sent to me as a sample, and I should have them, I think, by the 22nd or something of September. I'm there for you. I know. Nikki, no mugs. I like that, Paul. So we're there. Okay, guys. Now, we have spent quite a lot of time on this podcast talking to people far smarter than us. That's kind of every night, actually. But we have spent quite a lot of hours conversing with people who have written for the conversation. But we haven't done it for a while, Chewy, it would be fair. I'm not sure when the conversation person we had on. So we're going to have a chat about this article and the author of it. He is a PhD student at Auckland University in the Faculty of Science. It is Angus Dowell, and Angus joins us right now. Angus, kia ora.
Kia ora. Good evening, fellas.
Kia ora.
Hey, before we get into the story, tell us about your PhD, so the people, the whānau, know where you're coming from.
Yeah, so I'm coming towards the tail end of my PhD at the University of Auckland in the School of Environment and the Faculty of Science. I'm doing a PhD in economic geography, which, for a reference point, is closer to sociology and anthropology than what you might expect. But I'm studying the way that big tech cloud providers, so the data center arms of big tech companies, expand and dominate markets across the globe. And New Zealand features as somewhat of a case study, given I live here, but I focus more broadly on their kind of geopolitical strategy.
So was that announcement from Amazon the other week like Christmas for you? Like, was that the busiest, funnest day of the year?
Yeah, I was like, this is my one opportunity to really shine. So yeah, and it was spectacular in other ways that I couldn't have hoped more for, really. Luxon was the keynote. It was down at the Aotea Centre. AWS has their sort of big conference once a year in New Zealand, or the New Zealand portion of their business. And Luxon was the keynote, and he sort of, in no uncertain terms, I think, kind of laid claim to the investment, which is $7.5 billion, which is
100%. He said we're now open for business, implying the last lot weren't, even though the last lot signed it up. Yeah, but now we're open for business. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, and he got rightly slammed in the media in the preceding week, which was very satisfying. But there was also a deeper kind of refrain that I think we've seen in New Zealand politics over the past decade, and that was in making comparisons between New Zealand and countries like Ireland and Singapore as places that we might try and emulate. And in the article, I make the very quite basic arguments that we're not Singapore and Ireland, and nor should we be. Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at it, shall we? I'm going to actually read out the first couple of short paragraphs, then throw you the ball. You say this in your article on The Conversation. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon specifically referenced Ireland and Singapore as two countries we often look to for inspiration on investment and technology. This kind of comparison has been a familiar refrain in New Zealand politics. More than a decade ago, then Prime Minister John Key imagined the country as the, quote, Switzerland of the South Pacific, end quote. Earlier this year, Luxon described his proposed Invest New Zealand agency as being, quote, modelled off the success of Ireland and Singapore, end quote, pitched as a, quote, concierge, end quote, service for large foreign investors, basically where they come and park their tax-free money, I think that's saying. But based on your research on how big tech cloud providers expand and dominate markets across the globe, you're going to argue that such comparisons are simplistic and they are misleading. I have some questions for you from your article, but how about we just throw you the ball and you can explain to us. And remember, we are the dumbest in the room here. So to dumb it down a bit for us in a simplistic way, why is his comparison simplistic and misleading in your opinion?
Well, for a number of reasons. I think Singapore and Ireland are often held up as these libertarian technological success stories. If you're on the right, they're this kind of constant example to demonstrate the way that global capital and the nation state can marry together and produce amazing things, like the economies. They do legitimately have pretty amazing economies, but that's also because of their geographic and geopolitical positioning. Ireland is basically a gateway, or was made a gateway for big tech into Europe, and Singapore to Asia. So they sit in these really strategic positions, and they've capitalized on that in only a way that they can. And New Zealand, in contrast, is at the bottom of the world, with a mid-sized economy, and we've mostly grown our digital sector from domestic consumption, and those are mostly large sort of public sector type projects as well. So we can't emulate that. But the more important point, I think, is nor should we try to, from a moral standpoint. Those countries have very different political sets of political commitments that have made the race to the bottom a successful outcome for them. They are the winners of the race to the bottom, and most others aren't. So they're the sort of rare success stories, and they've done so because, Singapore is a soft authoritarian democracy, and they prioritize economic growth over democratic contestation. And Ireland, after and I make this case in the article, after repeated reprimands from the EU, is basically just sold itself as a tax haven, a naked tax haven. Yeah.
Can we clarify? I think most of us understand what you're saying, but sometimes when we say a phrase that's very common, like a race to the bottom, it kind of would be good just to contextualize what that means. What's the bottom we're hitting, and why is it? I mean, the race to the bottom implies this is a bad thing. Why is the race to the bottom in this situation a bad thing? We don't even need to talk about why they're winning the race to the bottom, but why just the race to the bottom? What's it about?
Well, in the context of capitalism or global capitalism, as capital becomes kind of more global, it's finding new these large multinationals are finding new places to set up shop. They're amassing more and more power, and as they become larger and larger, states become more interested in trying to attract and compete for their capital, and you get this situation where states compete with each other, offering more and more lax conditions. So one country offers a lower tax status over here, and someone might lower the tax over here, and so you're moving further and further towards this situation where you're selling the integrity of your political system to attract foreign capital. And Singapore and Ireland have done that, but they've done it because they kind of can win, given their strategic positioning as well. I'm not saying that we should try and emulate that if we had the strategic positioning. I'm just saying that that's a big reason of why they're these success stories.
It is interesting that in particular Ireland has been the gateway to Europe. You would think somewhere on mainland Europe would have made more sense, because then they're literally in. You know what I mean? There's not a body of water like it would have been France or Holland or Spain or something that was actually in there. But as soon as you start talking about location, it's like, where is New Zealand the location for? We're not the location to go in, unless it's Antarctica. Not really the location to go anywhere. One of the things that was interesting in your article was also what these big tech companies were doing. You talked about the big tech companies building their European operations in Ireland. So it wasn't just big tech money coming in with big tech money, big tech companies, big tech money. It was big tech companies, big tech money, and big tech setups. So they have a tangible, physical location, for example, in Ireland. I'm not sure if it's the same within Singapore, which is also something very, very different from what's happening in New Zealand. the Amazon announcement the other week, they wouldn't confirm where their location was. Of course, we all suspect that they're just bouncing off the back of someone else's infrastructure to do it, because the place they bought, as Chewy said last week, was on a wetland and funnily enough didn't work for drainage. So is that another big part about why we can't beat them, because we're not getting the physically built infrastructure, maybe in part because we don't go anywhere. Like they go to Ireland, they can jump into Europe. They go to Singapore, they can jump into Asia. They go to New Zealand, they can jump to the Chathams. There's not really anywhere to go from here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a somewhat complicated question to answer, because part of the value proposition of these providers is security. They are the most secure, but a key part of providing that security, they argue, is secrecy. So we're not allowed to know where these data centers are, is their argument. But that is why they're so secure. And that is why there's so much, such a lack of transparency around, or why they're able to justify a lack of transparency around their operations. But we are very much right to ask whether they have actually set something up here, because a big part of their strategy often is to use local providers, local cloud providers, who are already doing a bunch of good stuff for our local economy, and forcing them to run AWS or Microsoft operations. So AWS and Microsoft will lease space from them. So that secrecy is really is key. They may have data centers that they built themselves here, but they haven't done it in New Zealand for the reasons that we've talked about before. But they did do it in Singapore and Ireland because it made sense for them. But in Ireland and Singapore too, you won't know where those data centers are. Even the public sector don't know really where those data centers are, and that's all part of their kind of smoke screen and mystery. Does that help answer the question somewhat?
Simon's also got a really interesting point about Ireland, because of course Ireland is the English-speaking country in Europe. So of course you can just come from America, Silicon Valley, land in Ireland. There's no barrier to entry to doing business with the person in the cubicle next to you, so to speak. There's one other thing that I want to throw at you, and I think it's interesting because you talked about Singapore. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've paraphrased it myself. Singapore can't be compared to. It's like I used to work in radio and do talkback, and I'd always get people phone up and go, why can't we have a criminal system like Singapore? They use the rattan there, and I'm like, well, it's kind of hard. You can't have a Singaporean criminal justice system without the whole Singaporean economy. The Singaporean justice system works within the Singaporean country with all the other parts of Singapore that make that up. So you can't just drink one part of it in. So what I think you're saying something similar in this article, which is they do things differently, so we can't be compared to them. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you saying in the article that one of the reasons we can't be compared with Singapore is growing their public sector and they're massively spending on long-term infrastructure, which is literally the exact opposite of what we're doing here? So how can you expect to compare us to a country that is basically the antithesis of your style of politics?
Yeah, I would frame it slightly differently. We can compare ourselves to them. And that point that you raise is probably one of the key potential positive comparisons that we could make. Like if we want to borrow something from one of these countries, it's that, a key ingredient for Singapore's success is that they have massive public ownership in telecommunications and all kinds of industries that we don't have, or we've progressively sold off or are doing soft forms of privatization currently. So we can compare ourselves. And I could have made that point in the article, but with conversation pieces, you're only allowed 800 words. So you have to be as concise as you possibly can. But that's a really good point. We can compare ourselves, but the way that Luxon's doing it is honestly incredibly out of touch. I mean, speaking to a room full of New Zealand's tech elite and using this analogy was just, you could sense a murmur around the room, like, this guy doesn't really know the history of this thing, and what the real potential of New Zealand's digital economy is. It's not on. It shouldn't be dependent on these big tech guys coming over here. So yeah, we should. Yeah.
Angus, in this time-sharing interview we do, my week of timeshare is up, and now it's time for Chewy to use the accommodation in his week of timesharing in the interview.
Cool.
Chewy, you want to jump
I'm so glad to see someone just go, hey, look, you can't just point at country X and say we should be like them. Because it's always cherry picked. Like we've had Luxon sort of go, we should be like Estonia.
Estonia, yeah.
Estonia's the other one, and I think that was about the digitization of public service, but then it didn't look at the size of the public service which he was cutting. And are we going to talk about Estonia's level of public housing? No, probably not. I agree that every time it happens, I just want to go, why can't we just be a better version of New Zealand? Why isn't that as aspirational? Do we not think that we can do things ourselves or come up with our own path? If you could inhabit the body of Christopher Luxon, what would you do to make New Zealand the best New Zealand it could be?
Well, I'll try and stay to my area of expertise, which isn't even really that great in terms of technology. I'm not really that interested in tech. It's just I'm probably closer to a Luddite than anything else. But if I could change some things, yeah, gosh, it's a hard one because there is just no or very little technological vision, and I think we've seen that recently in July, I think they released their AI policy or something, and essentially all of the pundits said there's just nothing about regulation. They're going for no regulation. So yeah, I think there's a strong case for New Zealand to take a stronger political stance on these things. And I don't think we would really lose out on that. I don't think losing the favor with big tech would be that disastrous for us. So I think we kind of have a unique opportunity to take a stance on things like data sovereignty, and to think about what the kind of economic possibilities that could come from, re-engineering or redirecting investment locally into our digital economy, which is kind of how it's grown anyway, mostly through domestic consumption, not through exports. Not to say that exporting is unimportant, but a stronger stance on these things. The only fly in the ointment of that argument, I think, is that there's this broader geopolitical context, which is the US and the relationship with the big tech companies. The US economy is kind of failing at the moment, like in really serious ways. And the only thing that's propping it up is massive investment in data centers. Big tech,
Wow.
I think it's maybe it's Microsoft or Amazon invested 100 billion or something in the last month in data centers. They're going absolutely gangbusters, and that's propping up their economy. And at the same time, the US has issued this naked threat to any nation considering some form of digital tax or AI regulation on US companies. And so that's the fly in the ointment. But fortunately, I think Luxon sort of accidentally preempted that by releasing a policy on AI that has no regulation anyway. So maybe we wouldn't upset anyone there as well. But taking a stronger stance on these things, I think there's an opportunity for us to do that. And I think a lot of people already are. We have quite a strong Indigenous data sovereignty movement in New Zealand. We have a lot of local cloud providers that have existed here for a long time and who provide much better security than what big tech offer, I think, at least. So, taking a stronger stance and having an honest debate about what our actual potential is. Yeah.
Anything else, Chewy? Any other lovely questions for Angus before we wrap up?
I think just talking generally about Amazon's data center, when they were talking about that, I kind of looked at it for the same reasons you've mentioned. We're far away from everywhere. It just struck me as potentially a bit of greenwashing, just because of the amount of renewable energy that we make. That they can go,
Yes.
oh, we've got a data center that's powered by renewable, 100% renewable energy and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I'm glad you picked up on that. That's, Amazon is now has been for a while, I think maybe 5 or 6 years, I'm not sure if it still is, but the largest purchaser of renewable energy in the world.
Wow.
Private purchaser, I think. But I still think that outstrips any state. Maybe not China, actually. That's probably doesn't outstrip China's investment. We're definitely being folded into their green kind of image. The other thing is, as well as with the region coming here, it's not just an opportunity for us to store our data there and run our services there and blah, blah, blah. It's a chance for other companies to store their data here. So it's a chance for other companies to potentially greenwash their software platform, energy intensive services. So there's that angle too. I think you're right to pick up on that. And we should really press them on that. It's I think Don Christie, who's the CEO of Catalyst Cloud, he said, it's sort of like exporting our renewable energy in some ways. These companies, big tech companies overseas, they will run on this cloud service. They might try and, run their machine learning model in New Zealand to greenify it, to give it the green tick, and then go and sell it somewhere else for political expediency. Yeah.
Angus, it's been lovely to speak to you tonight. Thank you so much for giving us some time. I appreciate you coming on board. We have in the show description notes, the show notes for this, the link to the conversation piece. And it was a really interesting read, and thank you for writing it, and thank you for coming and joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the kind words. Cheers, and have a great rest of your show.
You too. There is Angus Dowell, PhD student at Auckland University, telling us that maybe, the comparison that, and it does seem to be national leaders, we talked about Kia's in there as well, how they love to compare New Zealand's economy to Singapore or Ireland, but it's not as simplistic. It is a bit simplistic and it is a bit misleading as well. And Kiwi Bear, of course, mentioned halfway through that Luxon out of touch. No,
I know it's just a phrase that's never been associated with the man. It's crazy to hear it verbalized out loud.
And Peter says some cultural cringe about let's be like X country. It's like, yeah. I think we always do that as the little, do you like us? Have you had a good trip? What do you like most about New Zealand? That kind of vibe. And Citizen just says 465 days. I'm not sure what that's about, unless he's saying till the next election, or has it been
to the next government? I think
to the next government. Is that what the answer is? 465 days? God, well, it'd be about right. A bit over a year. Yeah. Yep. 366, 365 plus 100, 3.5 months. Be pretty close. Unless we've completely missed it, Gold. You can tell us what that's all about.
Talking about government sort of going, hey, look, we need to latch on to the next big thing to make sure that we're not left behind. I think this is why I have such a problem with older politicians.
Yeah.
Relying on someone with, let's be honest, some experience that is outpaced and maybe don't listen to experts as good as they should. And I'm gonna single out Judith Collins here because she's sometimes been quite effervescent about some pretty sketchy things, and I'm pretty sure that if she was a private citizen, she would fall for chain email scams reasonably regularly. But she couldn't open a PDF on her phone. Is that what you're saying? I think she could, but for the express purpose of giving her credit card details to a scammer.
Okay.
You know, we've seen her talk about AI. Do we think that she has an understanding of what AI is involved in? We've seen her talk about us getting into the space race. Has she considered things around that? I'm just not confident in people making the right decisions around that. You know, is New Zealand's place turning up to the space race fucking 50 years too late? Is that going to grow us as a country? You know, we've got our own aspects here, and I would like to see our growth industry be in green technology. Like, I feel like we have so many advantages here because of our climate. And it's quite often brushed off of well, that's farming, right? No, it's farming, it's tourism. So much of our energy generation is renewable. And I think at the moment we're sleeping on it because half of our coalition government thinks it's gold rush time, or you know, we're going to have a new boom of oil and gas exploration, or coal's back, baby. And it's just, we're leaving this emerging technology. I think we're flat-footed at the moment. So where are those jobs?
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, the good thing about Judith is if we if we need some money for whatever reason,
look, the money will be found because it has to be found.
So, you know, that's one positive about it that we can put out there.
Actually, speaking of that, tangent time. Tangent time, Pat. Tangent. She was, of course, talking about our new helicopters, and you know, I've been walking a middle ground. You know, maybe our defence forces need new helicopters, and maybe these were the right choices. Have we paid the right amount of money, though? I don't know if you've seen the stories about it, but we're paying almost double what Australia is for the same helicopters.
Well, speaking from someone who's been negotiating on enamel pins all day, is it because they're ordering 16,000 and we're ordering 2? Because the difference is quite remarkable.
That is a fair comment, and
not double though.
When someone brought this up with me, I'm like, okay, this is my problem whenever these deals are discussed, is they take the total cost of the project and then they break it down into how many helicopters we go for, and then that means X amount of money per helicopter. And that's kind of true and kind of not, because it depends on what that whole package we've negotiated is. So have we ordered a small amount of helicopters and a shit ton of spares because we're going to be flying these things for the next 60 years? You know, there's so much that we don't know, but certainly the haste that it seems that this decision has been made with doesn't soothe my query.
Here's a question for you and for the chat. This is not one of the topics we're talking about tonight. We'll move on to talking about Doha shortly. But I'm interested about the reaction in the last few hours about the documentary on Tom Phillips. And numerous people saying shouldn't do it. You know, it'll affect people. I've been watching documentaries over the last wee while on Netflix. I watched the Fred West one, which is pretty horrific. I watched the one about the what's his name, the guy who bombed the center. His name's jumped out of my head. There was an American bomber, you know. I watched that one as well. That affected lots of people. People died and stuff. I'm just like, what do we think? Because, you know, in media, you want true stories to be told. You want stories to be out there and stuff. But it feels like people are going, you know, we don't talk about this in our little country. We don't know. This is something we don't do. Yeah, McVeigh. Thank you. Stay positive. The McVeigh bomber dude. That dude.
Okay, gotcha.
And I just thought, I mean, it's not a story for tonight. We're not putting any big time into it, but I did write it down to say I might throw it out there. What do people think? Is it Anthony McVeigh? Does that sound right?
Yes.
Anthony McVeigh.
Timothy.
Oklahoma. Oklahoma City bomber. Is that right?
Yeah, that's Timothy McVeigh.
Timothy McVeigh. Got there. See, this is how unprepared I am for it. But what do you think? Do you have any feels around the document? Like, I mean, there's been documentaries on lots of. There's a movie about Aramoana. You know, there's been TV series about David Bain. They're all over the place. What is it? Because what's it about this that all of a sudden, hey, we shouldn't know. This feels a bit untoward. Thoughts? Any thoughts?
Okay, I mean, my gut reaction when I saw that is, oh yuck, gross. I think the fact that it's happening now and that they're chasing it is gross rather than putting it together later. I think it's gross because it involves the lives of 3 children who didn't fucking ask for any of this.
Yeah.
And I think I'm on record last night saying I don't want to see anything more about it. I don't care. I want these kids to fade into the background and be as fucking anonymous as they can for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Because so many people have opinions about this, and so many people have gross opinions. Like the amount of abuse that's flying backwards and forwards from people that are like, hey, look, can we just look at this at the point that this guy took those kids because he didn't want the courts to take them from him, and maybe that's a sign why the courts were going to take his kids away. You know, family court is a terrible experience for pretty much everybody involved in it. I understand the high emotions of it, but taking your kids, running away, living in the bush, isolated from everyone for 4 years is not, it doesn't make this dude a hero. It makes him a nutter, and he's reacted like a nutter. But there are people that want to worship him as some sort of Father of the Year hero. And I think any sort of documentary, any sort of extra media, all of these stories that are happening on social media and stuff and all of that sort of thing is just adding fuel to that fire. I want the story to die. I want those kids to have a real life.
So here's an unpopular opinion, right? And watching the chat, this is an unpopular opinion, what I'm about to say. I don't think children or no children come into a reason to do or not do something when you're looking at something like a documentary. I mean, every one of those documentaries I've just mentioned, children were affected by it. You know, there's been documentaries about kids that have been, you know, kidnapped and put in the basement for 18 years and then got out, and there's been a documentary about it. I do get that it's so soon, XYZ, right? So this is a bit uncouth to think it would come out tomorrow, but obviously it won't come out tomorrow. They're filming it now because it's happening now, just like the Jacinda documentary was filmed whilst she was Prime Minister. So that's why they're filming it now, because the past 4 years is what's been going on. And I'm not saying fuck the kids, you know, fuck them, screw them, don't worry about it. I'm saying that I don't think that in and of itself is a reason to cancel, not have a documentary, as it's not the reason to definitely have one, because you could also very easily make a documentary. I mean, I think I heard one commentator say today, looking at the process of how this guy stayed out for 4 years is well worthy of investigating. It doesn't really focus on the kids. It's more about the system and what happened and where the breakdown was and what locals helped him and all that kind of stuff as well. Look, this is also going to be something. It's going to be a documentary or a film. This is getting headlines all over the world. So there's no question it's not going to be something. I don't know. I mean, if the kids were front and center in the middle of a documentary now 4 or 5 years older, I would have more of a problem than that. Like, I don't talk about my kids or show my kids on any broadcast I do, but I have shown pictures of them when they were 2, like 10 years later, because that doesn't identify any of them. No one knows what that means for them then. Yeah. Anyway, look, I know, don't shoot I'm not the best here. I'm the person with the opinion. I know that might be unpopular, but I just think in general, kids or no kids is not a reason just to like abusing kids is a reason, or you know, re-traumatizing them might be a reason, but just kids, which some of the kids have been kids, Pat, it's like that's not just a reason in and of itself to do it or not do it. So, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, like you talk about it, about kind of, it sounds like what you're talking about is the kind of profile of Tom Phillips going up, and that's not needed. What about a documentary about the Christchurch shooter, like that event? I mean, I'm sure that's probably going to be a documentary if it's not already. Would that therefore also then raise I know you don't even say his name, you personally, would that raise the what people think of him? Is it a story that gets told? Is it a story to learn from?
I don't want to see a story centered on the Christchurch shooter. I would want to see a story centered on the people of that mosque and how they're getting on with their lives for better or worse, but that's up to them as well.
So you're okay on the Christchurch shooting, not on the Christchurch shooter. So couldn't the same be said for this on Tom Phillips documentary, but not focusing on his kids, even though the kids are impacted nearby? Could that be a line of demarcation?
No, hang on. There's a difference there.
Yep.
Okay, if we're talking about the survivors of the Christchurch mosque shooting, we're talking about a documentary centered on the victims. If we're talking about a documentary centered on Tom Phillips, we're talking about a documentary centered on Phillips.
So that would be you're saying that would be the equivalent to you of the shooter.
Yeah. And like my secondary concern is the amount of hero worship that is going on. Like, this is New Zealand's version of Ned Kelly.
Really?
Yeah. People like, he didn't want to give his kids up to the courts, and he ran from the cops and all of this sort of stuff. Some of the chatter online is very much of that manosphere. And this is all because family court is so emotionally charged. Yeah. Right.
All right,
There's a feeling amongst people that dads never get access to their kids, which is not true. It's hard, and it's hard for the mothers as well. It's just family court is shit for pretty much everyone involved with it.
So what we're hearing in general, the theme from tonight is most people are like, no thanks, fair enough, something I was thinking. Let's get back to the show. I like it how we're not going to talk about this tonight. 7 minutes later, we're talking about it. Reminder that submissions on electoral amendment bill close tomorrow at 1 p.m. Submit now or submit to NACT. It's your choice. Oh, see that? Submit to National Act. Isn't it NACT NZ? National Act New Zealand? So in other words, submit your submission now or be under the submission of the coalition government.
Just because NACT was mentioned.
Yep.
I love this comment so much. It's actually my banner image on Blue Sky. But it was from a Reddit comment from someone that says, only cringy leftist shills watch Big HN and use the term NACT.
Nice. Hey, let's have a look at the story out of Doha today. Chewy, we're going to have a debate around how many countries Israel has bombed this year. I mean, this in and of itself is a shocking story. If there was a person or people in New Zealand that Australia needed to get to extradite, to get out, to get access to, so they just sent some missiles into a neighbourhood in, West Auckland. I mean, I know the tensions are slightly different and the thing, but the nuts and bolts of it is sending missiles into a sovereign country who is an ally of America. And America seems to be not that worried about it. Here we go.
And a deadly Israeli airstrike in key American ally Qatar has sent shockwaves through the Middle East and torpedoed hopes.
Largest US, I think it's army base, is in Qatar.
Air base.
Qatar, whichever way. Air base, there you go.
For peace in occupied Gaza. Israel says it was targeting Hamas leaders in Doha, where talks on a US proposal for a Gaza ceasefire have been taking place. Hamas says no senior leaders were among the 6 killed. The US now under intense fire itself for what it knew and how it warned Qatar about Israel's attack. US correspondent Logan Church reports.
Terror in the centre of Qatar's capital. This residential building struck by Israeli warplanes trying to take out Hamas leadership.
Can we just say this is an act of war? Country A bombing country B for whatever reason is an act of, is it not? How can this not be an act of war?
I think you're wrong there, because if it was a true act of war, it would have consequences and Israel wouldn't do it. I think the term for this is frowned upon.
Oh, so what if Canada wanted to get those maple syrup thieves from America? And so what they did was they sent some of their albatrosses into Chicago to bomb a bomb a building is just to be frowned upon. You know what I mean? I know I'm being silly, but it is country A bombing a sovereign city, sovereign country.
Well,
No permission, no backing, no reason.
Maybe there is a difference. If you blew up a building with a backpack or a car bomb, that's terrorism, obviously, right? It's just not cricket. But if you do it with a US supplied warplane and a US supplied laser guided bomb, that's fine. That's what's the word? Diplomacy.
Yeah.
Clearly, this building in a completely unrelated country posed an existential threat and was being anti-Semitic. So it clearly had to be removed.
All right.
The same terrorists who planned, launched, and celebrated the horrific massacres of October 7th.
Israel claimed its strikes were successful. Hamas says it wasn't. What's certain is this is a dramatic escalation in Israel's multi-front war in the Middle East. Qatar is a close ally of America and home to the biggest US airbase in the region. The Gulf state has been at the center of efforts to get Israel and Hamas to agree to a ceasefire.
The Israeli attack that took place today on Qatari soil, we cannot call it anything other than state terrorism. Netanyahu himself declared that he would reshape the Middle East. Does this message mean that he intends to reshape the Gulf as well?
Despite America's close-knit defense relationship with Israel, the White House says by the time it learned of the attack, there was no time to warn Qatar.
The first call we had from an American official was at 3:56, which is 10 minutes after the attack.
Qatar reserving the right to respond to what it calls a barbaric action. President Trump was treated to a royal welcome when he visited in May, the emir promising billions of dollars in investment in America. Trump today in damage control.
I was very unhappy about it, very unhappy about every aspect.
Israel acted wholly independently, and we take full responsibility for this action.
So what does that mean? Wholly independently. That means that he's either lying and America knew, or that Israel doesn't give a fuck what America thinks. So they are now wholly independent, out on their own. America couldn't stop anything they wanted to do. We know it was a lie from Trump when he said he'd have the war finished on day one. But now even when he says, well, of course that just means quickly, Israel has shown us today that America has zero influence on them. And they couldn't give two shits about what America's going to say. They'll do what they want to do anyway.
Well, I think they've put America in a position, right? There is a lot of money tied up in American money tied up in Qatar. It's a key Arab ally to the US, which is uncommon. They have spent a lot of money investing in the US, and specifically in Donald Trump as well.
Yeah.
So now they're going to have to pick a side or do some very quick negotiating. Now, I just had a quick look at what the Qatari Air Force has.
Mm-hmm.
They're no scrubs. I don't know if they could go toe-to-toe with the Israelis, but they've got some pretty up-to-date tech.
So what happens if Qatar calls on their, as this story said, key ally in America to help them fight back? What then?
Yeah,
I mean, we're also looking at...
Apparently, we don't have to check in with Big Brother. Israel doesn't. So we're just going to send a message.
I mean, this is another story, which again, we haven't got tonight to talk about, but, you know, Russia putting drones into Poland today over a NATO ally. You attack one, you attack all. So today, Russia could have started an international conflict by putting drones into a NATO ally, and Israel could have started a world conflict by attacking an American key ally. So what is going on, people? What is actually happening? We'll keep going on the story.
And this action can open the door to an end of the war.
The US isn't so sure.
Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals.
This as Israel drives forward in Gaza, ordering hundreds of thousands of people to move south. America's push for peace apparently in ruins too, with fears this might spiral out into a much wider regional conflict.
All right, Logan's with us live now. The US
I
is...
think that's pretty much what we've got. Everyone knows sort of updates from there. I just also wonder now, like, you know, I'm not evoking Zoran Mamdani for any particular reason because he's not born in America, but now is the time, I think, to show the duopoly or the monoparty in America that actually opposing what Israel is doing will be quite popular. Like, what Israel is doing is they're putting themselves out on a limb to potentially, now I don't think America will ever drop them, but America, the US, is their last helpful hand. And I think the people of America, from the polling and stuff, are pretty sick of this as well. And, you know, we're a long ways away from an American election, but to start the rhetoric now about actually we want to move away from this. We want to stop funding these wars. We want to stop putting money into Israel that then gets turned into bombs, that then gets sent into sovereign cities. I actually think it would be a really interesting time to start that conversation. I think we all agree, or if we don't agree, we've all heard before, that the policies that some people think are much more progressive than the Democrats are happy with, are actually, and it might be in New Zealand here, a capital gains tax, are actually no longer controversial. This is probably the time the world needs to hear those voices. We've got an election in 14 months or so. I think it's 465 days from the last time I counted. And I think that now's the time to start to go, okay, team, this is the time to get those non-controversial, quite popular, stop being scared of policies in place for the next decade. I reckon, for politicians over the next decade. This is the time.
I think there's another aspect I want to talk to about this attack as well. Is this the guys that were hit for this were in Qatar to negotiate a ceasefire. America knew it, the Qataris knew it, Israel knew it. And Israel's gone, what a great opportunity to hit who we want all in one place.
We know where they
are.
are.
Preparing for a ceasefire.
Yeah.
That's some barbaric shit. At every stage, when they're close to negotiating a ceasefire, somebody gets assassinated. When the Israelis hit Iran, one of the people that they hit was the person responsible for negotiating around Iran's nuclear program. And they were reportedly very close to a deal with the Americans to put their nuclear program on pause again.
Yeah.
The other day, when the Israelis assassinated a prime minister, that was around a peace negotiation as well. So at what point do we sort of go, well, maybe this country that's supposed to be a beacon of democracy and the most stable country in the region really isn't, and is in fact the biggest destabilizing factor in that region since ISIS.
Yeah. I mean, what you're spelling out in a much clearer way is what we've been saying for a while, which is there's only really one person or maybe a group of people who don't want peace in the Middle East, and the person sitting at the top of that list is Benjamin Netanyahu, so he doesn't end up being tried as a war criminal. So yeah, and we've heard many times before, just give back the hostages. On day 2, the hostages were offered back for some of the prisoners of war that Israel has in their prison, including I think it's 90 children who are Palestinians, and the Israelis turned it down. So at every time it seems to go, what you're saying, Chewie, is we're getting towards peace talks or we're making an offer for peace, it's Israel that go, No, not going to happen.
Don't want to.
And so now Occam's razor is the fewest number of, the fewest number of jumps to get to an outcome, whatever the right word is. Fewest a number of assumptions to get to a correct outcome. So if we were going to go through Occam's razor and go, why is it always Israel that, pardon the pun, but blows up the peace talks? Because they don't want peace? Because isn't that the logical place we come to? And then the question is why? Yeah.
So have we actually worked out how many countries they've hit?
Well, I think they said 8 today, 8 countries. I went looking for that and I found 6, and you said you thought it was 7.
I thought it was 7.
So just think about a country, any country. Let's take the emotion away from Israel. Any country bombing, let's call it 7 because that's a mix between 6 and 8. 7 sovereign states. Maybe that's including Gaza. So technically, you probably couldn't include that as a sovereign state. So let's say 6 sovereign states sending missiles
that's
into
where I'm
it.
getting 7.
Is that where you're getting 7?
Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, Yemen, Qatar. So there's 6. Tunisia, 7. Because they've hit the Greta Thunberg's flotilla in Tunisian waters twice in the past 2 days.
So if it's more than 5 and less than 10, any country anywhere in the world that sent missiles, bombs, warships, whatever it was, into between 5 and 10 countries in the space of, what month are we in? 9. So in the space of 9 months. And they get to play their get out of jail free card again and 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 again. When does it stop? How does it stop?
Yeah, I'm baffled, mate.
And remember, if you say that's not an okay thing to do, anti-Semitic. Let me just get the Uno Reverso anti-Semitic card and pull it out, and
isn't that the long?
And then media backs down. And then media backs down. Anti-Semitic. Uno Reverso.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I was talking with a colleague about this, and just it's what we've talked about in the protest movement of, like, at this stage you'd have to be really careful about why people are there. You know, do you see that we're talking about the state of Israel, the Netanyahu administration being the bad guys here? Or are you here because you don't like Jews? You know, and I think this has really eroded away a lot of the protection Israel has had from criticism. I haven't seen a movement like this against what Israel's been doing this for decades and has been able to get away with it with not a lot of pushback from the global community and the public. It's just slid past everybody. Certainly not in my lifetime do I remember anything like this. But I think this has washed away a lot of the protection that Israel has enjoyed as the world's guilt at allowing the Holocaust to happen. And it's just, I guess, cruelly ironic that it's taken another genocide for that to happen.
Little tangent, but on the same theme. I'll show you something, that Uno Reverso card that I was talking about. The Holocaust Museum in Los Angeles put out information, like a post.
Oh, yeah.
And the post said, "Never again" can't only mean never again for Jews.
I think we can all agree with that.
I think we can all agree with that. The Holocaust Museum got an Uno Reverso played on them. And I'm going to struggle to read this because it's so bloody small and I'm so bloody blind. Not long after that, they said, here we go, I'm moving across here. Holocaust Museum Los Angeles the first survivor funder and oldest Holocaust museum in the country, is committed to its core mission to educate, commemorate, and inspire. We recently posted an item on social media that was part of a pre-planned social media campaign intended to promote inclusivity and community that was easily open to misinterpretation, Chewy. It doesn't say Chewy in the post. I didn't do it straight to you. By some, to be a political statement reflecting the ongoing situation in the Middle East. It's a situation, Chewy. It's a situation in the Middle East. That was not our intent. It's been removed to avoid any confusion. We promise to do better, and we will ensure that posts in the future are more thoughtfully designed and thoroughly vetted. We have taken action internally to ensure our message always remains clear and reflective of our mission to inspire humanity through truth. The Holocaust Museum in Los Angeles got an Uno Reverso today. The Holocaust Museum. And then they capitulated, which is what you see happening in the media. How do you, if the Holocaust Museum gets an Uno Reverso, what hope is there for any of us to be able to have this conversation openly and honestly without getting Uno Reversoed to us as well? I mean, I don't care if people Uno Reverso us, but it does stop conversation. You know, you get labeled that, and then others will avoid the conversation. Personally, I couldn't give a crap because I know, we know, you know, Chewy knows, we're not. But once the label comes, the conversation becomes 1% harder, and then 1% harder, and then 1% harder. So, yeah, if the Holocaust Museum is getting Uno Reversoed, you're anti-Semitic. What hope is there for any of us? Chewy.
Yeah, it's baffling. And yeah, as someone that has spent quite a lot of time soaking in history around the Holocaust and World War II, it is infuriating and baffling. But I guess it is quite enlightening and a point that you sometimes look at historical events and you go, how did people not notice this? How did people let this happen? And I guess we're experiencing that there is an enormous amount of inertia in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe this is where I tangent into what's happening in Nepal at the moment. We have discussed this. Have you?
I saw some things, people running in the streets tonight. Lots going on.
So this might be a particularly messy timeline, but from what I've read, the Nepalese government decided to do some sort of social media ban or internet ban. They banned a whole bunch of sites. And then at some point after that, a government minister, maybe the prime minister, was walking around in a city, in a market, and somebody might have kicked him and pushed him down a set of stairs or something, which has triggered a police crackdown in a particular neighborhood and has ended up with their parliament being burnt to the ground.
Nepalese lift social media ban. Nepal lifts social media ban after 19 killed in protest. So there you go. You can see what happens if you're trying to take TikTok off those kids. You see what's going to happen, people. It's pretty clear.
And you know, different countries have different reactions to stuff, but maybe there's a lesson in people power here. Maybe governments should be a little bit scared of their people sometimes.
It is funny, since I'm going to reference it as one of the firsts. You remember obviously we all remember the Arab Spring. That seemed to be the first place that social media really connected with people in a place that turned it into, the people's power sort of thing. They didn't need to have a gatekeeper to get information. It really did turn into amongst the people. There's lots of questions to be answered about the whole conversation around the Arab Spring as it went on years later. But yeah, social media can be incredibly powerful. I mean, I guess it depends what you use it for, isn't it?
Very similar thing happened in Ukraine when they overthrew their Russian puppet president. And you had those amazing scenes of people running into the presidential palace while this guy bolted from the country before the people got to him.
Okay, let's move on to the last story. Now, we didn't cover this story when it first happened, but we did talk a little bit about last night. Tākuta Phillips and his comments of a post that was, no, that's the wrong one, it'll be that one, that went out around the by-election in Tāmaki Makaurau. This blows my mind. Indians, Asians, Black and Pākehā campaigning to take a Māori seat from Māori. And Te Pāti Māori came out and apologised for it. Te Pāti Māori apologises over Tākuta Phillips' social media post. So obviously, if they're apologising, Te Pāti Māori are kind of going, I mean, I can't put words in their mouth that they're saying this was a wrong thing. But if you're apologising, you're acknowledging there's been some error or something done that you don't quite agree with. About midnight last night, Tākuta Phillips did a 7.5-minute post on his Instagram, explaining, doubling down basically. I was going to try and watch some of this, but actually literally just before we came on air, TV3 has done a story on it. So I think what we'll do, because the 7 minutes we can watch all of that, but it would have been better to pull some bits out. So I'm sort of trusting that TV3 has already done that for us. So we'll go have a look to see what they say about it. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring up his Instagram was I thought it would be interesting to also have a look at some of the comments on his Instagram from people about what he's saying as well. So kind of to get the heart of it. So here we go. This is the 3 News story tonight.
Te Pāti Māori MP Tākuta Phillips has defied his co-leaders, doubling down on his criticism of non-Māori supporting Labour's Peni Hinare's by-election campaign. Te Pāti Māori publicly apologised on his behalf last week when he first made the comments. Instead of apologising, he posted a late-night video repeating his complaints. Glenn McConnell reports.
Tākuta Phillips hitting out at Labour.
Well, guess what, Willie? I don't give a crap who you care about or what you care about. In the Māori seats, it's about the Māori people, Māori only.
In direct defiance of his own Te Pāti Māori co-leaders.
The vultures in the game swoop in and make a big story.
You got to be careful, 3, because you're making that look like he might be referencing his leaders as the vultures, because that's how that was kind of cut. It's obviously certainly not what he was doing. One of the things, and I haven't watched this article yet, so I'm not sure, he does say is, if he had have said this just in Māori, there'd be no hubbub about it. But because he said it in English, there's hubbub about it. Now, agree or disagree, that's part of his 7-minute conversation off his Instagram.
I'm out of it because they want to get some points, right? But didn't really work.
Te Pāti Māori told Phillips to take down this post when he criticised Labour for having non-Māori supporters helping Peni Hinare's campaign for Tāmaki Makaurau. Last week, the party apologised on his behalf. It said it did not condone this post and instructed Phillips to pull it down. But Phillips doesn't want to apologise.
Man, I've had so many messages of people saying, well, what you said was right. Yes, that's correct. Oh, we shouldn't be so shy to say that. No, tūturu.
Other MPs not sharing any support for Phillips.
This is harmful to those communities and to our kaupapa of kotahitanga.
I think that, dude, I mean, we hold Marama in pretty high regard here. If she's coming out and saying to a Māori MP about a Māori issue, dude, you're out of line. That, to me, at least, Chewy, that says a lot. I mean, like, we're about to hear from Bitumen, it would appear, but from Marama, you're like, dude, that says something.
This is harmful to those communities and to our kaupapa of kotahitanga.
I think that those comments are very prejudicial, discriminatory and unreasonable, particularly of an elected member. But kei a ia ona kōrero. He has his own views and sometimes they come from a very dark and dank place.
I just think that's not the New Zealand way. It is also not the spirit that some of us have been working very hard over the last couple of years to try and generate.
And Winston Peters is worried about what Phillips was doing.
Oh, God. Get ready, people. He's probably woke.
Summoned the mummy.
That'll be woke somewhere and someone race it. That'll be something. Winston will sort it out.
So late at night.
I said that they were totally inappropriate when he first made them. And he repeated them again last night. It's midnight. It was full moon. It's out. But good have a good hard look at his body language. There's something wrong here.
This video was uploaded around midnight. He talks at length, ranting for 8 minutes about why he was right to criticise Peeni Henare for having non-Māori supporters helping his Tāmaki Makaurau by-election.
And that's actually potentially factually untrue as well. Allegedly, there's no Māori in that image, but that doesn't mean there's no Māori in the campaign. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference there. There's a difference between those two things.
Okay, homogenising e te whānau means you're making Māori appear as just another one of these ethnic groups in the Māori seat. That should blow your mind.
This video is causing all sorts of trouble for Te Pāti Māori, and they don't want to talk about it.
Do you call out racism where you see it?
Their leaders didn't come to work today, and Ferris was nowhere to be found. Their absence just piling more pressure on potential coalition partner Labour.
Does it change your view of the party and make them seem like a difficult political party to work with potentially in the future?
I had a very constructive conversation with the leadership of the Māori Party. In this case, it was Debbie Ngāti-Wapeka earlier today. And I absolutely accept her at her word that she is also very concerned about this.
Apparently concerned, but Te Pāti Māori hasn't publicly said anything. They're ignoring journalists after Debbie Ngāti-Wapeka made an unsubstantiated claim they were being tracked with hidden cameras and reporters hiding in bushes. 3 News asked them yesterday for details.
Who was in the bushes though? Who was it? Where were the bushes?
Anything else? Okay, is there anyone else that wants to talk?
No, who was it in the bush though?
Is there anyone else that wants to talk?
So you made an allegation?
No.
Who had the hidden camera? Who had the hidden camera?
Co-leaders not happy answering questions, and an MP unhappy with their apology.
Yeah, so there you go, Chewy. It's a very strange thing that when you sit on the sidelines looking in and wanting to see a group being successful, and unfortunately understanding the game of politics and how it's played somewhat, realising that some things they're doing is harmful to the overall outcome that they want for themselves. I don't have any insights into the world of Māoridom. I'm not the person to talk to about how they should and shouldn't speak publicly, but I know politics. And I know that this will attract some people, but it'll also turn some people away. I think it's probably a net negative, even if it is what you enthusiastically and honestly believe.
Yeah, I got a couple of thoughts with this. Look, I like Ferris. I think he's a good MP. I watched him through the select committee, the submissions process. He asks good questions. He raises good points. I've enjoyed some of his speeches in the House. I think he's a good MP. I don't think there's anything anything good that comes on hitting that go live button at midnight. I think that's a mistake, and I don't think that there is anything good that comes of making your leaders look bad. I can't imagine that's going to be a fun decision. And it puts them in this position that everybody is punching at them at the moment. Every party. Like, as you said, Marama has come out and said, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah. It is kind of that, isn't it? It's, bro, what are you doing? I mean, like I said, sometimes we get accused of the white savior complex, and it's not that at all. It's like, I want to fill as many left-wing sails as I can, happy to stand on the sidelines, not my place to get in there. And you can see some of these things and you just kind of go, how do we help without making the problem worse? And
yeah. I think the other part of it is I can see where he's going of like, hey, look, it's a Māori seat. This is an issue for Māori. But I think that's short-sighted. I think that is ignoring the large portion of... I think Māori Party has a lot of support from tangata reti. And so when you hear someone go, nah, Māori only, what do those supporters are left to think about?
But what he's saying is right. The seats are for Māori only.
It's Māori rock.
But it doesn't mean that Māori only want to see that Māori MP in that seat. many non-Māori want. I mean, like I mean, like without casting too many kind of I don't know what the word is. Anyway, I'm stoked to see Te Pāti Māori have 6 Māori seats. I'd be stoked to see them have 7 next year. I'm not Māori, but I'm on the sidelines going, that's cool with me. And saying that, like I also don't want to, and I'm probably a little bit different from many watching, I don't want to smash Labour and say you can't have them either. So, battle of wills, see what happens. But I'm excited about Te Pāti Māori being in there. I'm excited when we talk to Debbie. This is the other thing. It feels like there is a disconnect between Debbie and Rawiri and maybe some of the MPs. Now, I don't mean that they're fighting or arguing. Maybe Debbie and Rawiri have understood more the game of politics. It's a horrible thing to say. I'm not trying to minimise it, but how, there are certain things that need to happen within that cycle of getting things done. And maybe some of the younger sort of and I'm using this term not negatively, but activist MPs, I mean, more power to you, look at the Greens, are just like, nah, fuck it, I'm doing it my way no matter what. Maybe, I don't know, but it's how it kind of feels, especially when the leaders have come out saying, dude, no, we're sorry for this. And then midnight last night, 20, whatever it is, 22 hours ago. It's like, just put it out there all over again.
When I read that story, because I was in the position of defending the dude, and then he did that, and I was like, oh no. So he's going to be in a position now where he's going to have to take his lumps.
Well, and it's still up as well. There's another thing to be aware of. It's still up right now. So
he's going to have to take his lumps here and survive this. He's going to have to be in a position of visibly being put in a place because he's put his leadership in a position. And so Debbie and Rawiri are now in a place where they're like, well, if they're not seen to do anything, then they're not in control of their own party. And if they do something, they run the risk of losing an MP. If Ferris goes, you know what, fuck this, I don't want to deal with this, I'm out.
Yeah. Hi, Uncle Hone, is that Mana party still going?
Yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
We need cohesion on the left, and we don't want to happen what we've talked about of like we're going to stick to the rules and we're going to do the good game. Meanwhile, the right goes, yeah, so what? Our MP does this. Or, Stuart Nash is shooting his mouth off, and now there's 3 parties deciding whether they want him more than the rest.
Here's an interesting take. The post is still up. I haven't gone through and cherry-picked any sayings, but this one I was scanning as I was going, that's quite interesting. So this is on Tākuta's Instagram. It says, I am your constituent. You were the first MP I'd ever voted for in my life. I'm Māori. I'm also South Asian. We can kōrero about the differences in reo till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, your phrasing and use of language on that particular post was what you chose to say, and it made the impact that it did regardless of what you meant to say in another language. You said it. End of. Our migrant community are some of our strongest allies, and I reject the notion that their presence is erasing us. I don't care about Labour or Willie Jackson or Penny. I expect to see accountability from you moving forward from this. I expect my MP that I voted for to represent me. I did not get that tonight. That's a pretty powerful
good comment.
Yeah, I like that was just I just grabbed one. Like I saw one. That was that's really interesting. That's really interesting. So, and I mean, it will be interesting to see what comes. The other thing is, I'm not about keeping the peace, right? I'm 100% fine with protest and making noise and breaking rules and for protest and that kind of stuff. But there is also an element of what you're going to go out there and what hill you're going to die on. And, there's that adage in business sometimes, and you don't run the country like a business, so I'm with you, but there's that adage in business that, you don't want to have any unforeseen issues, no surprises. Most prime ministers want no surprises. Most leaders of political parties want no surprises. And what this does, right? This is the thing you got to think about when you're in politics, right? What this does, this just confirms the narrative of the right, right? So the narrative of the right, which is wrong, right, about who Te Pāti Māori are, what they believe, this confirms it for them. This gives them a billboard. This gives them information and fodder for the next election run. This gives them the right to go, well, look, how's Hipkin going to work from them? What does Hipkin say? This could turn into Hipkins having to justify what was said here, because Te Pāti Māori could be a coalition partner. So yeah, it's dumb politics. Sorry to be blunt. And in fact, I think someone in the chat said that. Shall I have a look and grab it? Here we go. Weli Ruru. What's the difference between donating money to Māori candidates, standing for Māori seats, and door knocking for them? Tākuta has a dumb take from Weli Ruru. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to be really honest with you, just being blunt, there's a part of me which goes, fuck the establishment, let's burn it all down. And there's a part of me that goes, yeah, but then we'll lose and the other guys will be in charge. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I think naturally I'm a burn it all down person. I mean, you may not think that, because I think some people think I'm, fairly moderate for the lefties sometimes, but I am innately let's burn it all down. But I'm also smart enough to know, with enough history on these old bones, to know that if you want to help the vulnerable, if you want to get away from this arsonist government, you got to sit in the seat of power. So there's going to be some part you got to play the game to win the outcome, as horrible as that sounds. And this is not a good tactic to win.
Yeah, I think the more the discussion, like one of the ugly things that always circles Te Pāti Māori is that they're a racist party because reasons. We've had probably one of my favourite shows is when we had Debbie and Rawiri on, and we just yarned about politics, about their aims. It just felt like the four of us and a couple of hundred people in the chat just sitting around a table over a few drinks talking about politics. We know through that really clearly what the Te Pāti Māori wants. And it fits really well with what I want for this country. The reason that people call Te Pāti Māori a racist party is because they are acknowledging Māori as a race in their position in New Zealand society, in New Zealand government, and in the founding of this country. The people that are calling them a racist party don't want any mention of Māori. They want us to all be the same. And that sounds good, but it means that something gets erased in favour of something else.
I loved hearing
Te Pāti Māori have done some phenomenal work around the hikoi and the Treaty Principles Bill. And I think they have activated an enormous amount of people and made them politically active. And that is a good thing.
I love hearing Marama tonight. Was it on that one, or did I watch something else? You said because they're called Te Pāti Māori because, I don't know if you heard Marama say Te Pāti Kakariki. Kakariki? Yeah. For the Green Party. She was talking about Te Pāti Kakariki, which I think is kind of cool. Hey, look, Claire said something really interesting. I want to put this up, and then I think we'll probably finish for the night. I get sometimes, not so much now, but there's a group of, they're kind of radicalised right, Māori women in particular on Twitter, who basically are like ACT voters, and there's a little circle of them. Some of them you would have heard being kicked out of, foursquares around the country because they've been harassing the trans community. That group of people who often have a crack on Twitter at me. They maybe I've blocked them. I don't know about the white. This is the white savior complex. You're white savior. We don't need you. And I always say to them, well, and what I say to them is kind of what Claire said. What I say to them is, well, I could either follow your advice to keep my nose out of it, or I could follow what Professor Margaret Mutu suggested we do, which was be a buffer. I think I'll stick with Margaret Mutu, and Claire's just kind of said the same thing. It's hard when Margaret Mutu calls for tangata tiriti to be buffers, and this guy seems to be saying the opposite. I mean...
Yeah, you know what's happened whenever something like this has come up, whether it's other people on the left that haven't liked a decision that we've made, or a show that we've done, or whatever, or what you're talking about there, is that it hasn't changed what I believe in, what I support, or the direction that I'm going. And it's always been in my head, right? Like, imagine that. The Māori people go, well, we don't need Pākehā. We don't need your help. We can do it ourselves. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm still walking this way.
Yeah.
and you're still walking this way as well. So we'll just angrily walk side by side.
Yeah. It's like that. You guys can, in this protest, you guys can be on the road walking that way. I'll just wander up the footpath beside you. And if you want to call me, and you can. If you don't want to, that's cool. I'm just going to stay on the footpath. And that's kind of how I feel about issues when they talk about that kind of white savior things. Like the difference between a white savior complex and not is white savior complex. They think that we are the answer to help these people. And I'm like, I ain't the fucking answer to help these people. But if this group of people want our help and they call upon us, I want to be available. That's the difference. And I think that we sit ourselves in that second, rather than thinking we've got anything special to offer any community that we're not a part of. Like, you need us, we're here, holler out. If you don't, we'll support you in whatever way we can. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There are a few supery chats here. I'm just going to get my mouse over it. There we go. Kiwibird says, Tākuta, stop it, get some help. Quite sure if we go that far, but Arvid says, my interpretation is when he says Māori only, it means we don't want Pākehā party control. I don't get that sense. I get the sense that he doesn't think Indian or Asian should be helping in that. Because that's good. The reason I get that sense is because that's what he said.
Yeah.
So,
and whether that's right or wrong, what his intentions were, it's the ambiguity that's in there that is a big part of the problem.
Well, one thing that they didn't say in the news article, which is in the actual thing, is he talks about the language of colonization. And it's a really interesting kind of academic conversation to have, but we're not going to have it now. And he's basically saying this English language that is colonized and inherently has violence in it, I'm paraphrasing probably badly, makes me say it like this is what it sounds like. If I was to say it in Te Reo Māori, no one would have a problem with it, which is why that comment that we read just completely out of the blue off his Instagram is so, I think, very poignant, because the commenter was saying it doesn't matter if you could say it better in Te Reo Māori, you said it in English, that's what's going to be left out there, which I think is completely fair. Speedlock says many immigrants have suffered through colonization, Africa, Middle East, Asia, and even Europe. And then Ishnan. There's just $2 for you, Chewy, from Ishnan.
Oh, nice.
Nice. All right. Is there anything else we need to get to? Who wants a mug for Christmas?
I do.
Which one do you want? You want that one? Do you want that one? Or you want to look at your own?
Look, because bright fucking Dayglow orange is definitely a common mug color. I think that's going to be one of those bespoke colors that we need to order 3,000 of. I'm okay with that. Like, I will throw out all of my mugs and just have a cupboard full of mugs with my own face on.
Oh, you know what we could do? I've just worked it out. We could do a 6-pack. Pick your own 6.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, eh? Out of the 8.
For your IRD staff room needs. For your union staff room needs.
Emily is an absolute graphical genius, 100%, right? They're amazing. I am still drawn to the OG a little bit as well. I quite like that red on black.
Simple, timeless.
I'll have hundreds of them sitting in my garage, so I guess I can pick whatever I want. Yeah, we'll see. And in 30 days, enamel pins, whānau. I actually phoned your missus today, Chewy, because I was working out sizings. I know you guys have about 1 million enamel pins, apparently. Chewy's got a lot. And I asked, 3.5 centimeters ish. Kind of trying to work it out. Look, I've even got little bits of paper here. I was sort of doing that. I was cutting things and kind of working out sizes, and so they're going to be about 3.5 centimeters by 3.5 centimeters, about 1.5 inches.
I got special ones.
Yeah.
Form a Triforce. I can't hold 3 at the same time, but they're a Triforce. They go together.
Oh, that's evil.
Ooh.
It's the Eye of Sauron. Is that what it is?
Yeah. By our powers combined, I am captain by death.
Actually, I'm quite looking forward to Christmas. Not even so much because it'll, mean sales to the merch store, but putting packs together. Imagine like a t-shirt, a hoodie, a cup, and a enamel pin. It's a pretty cool pack. Merry Christmas. It's a pretty cool pack. So it'll be fun, man. I'll have to now figure out how I can let you pick which one you want. I'll have a Chewy Foo and a BHN. Oh, and a sticker pack, of course, as well. That goes in there. Holy crap. This is going to be huge. You better start saving, whānau, for Christmas.
Marketing.
I guess that means we've got to do that in November as well, because then they have to be sent out so people can give them as presents for Christmas. And I had this thought always. I had this idea that we could do some kind of auction. And on the auction, we had all of the MPs. And you would bid to buy a hoodie or a t-shirt. And like the person who bid the most gets to select what MP you want us to send this t-shirt to with your name on it. So imagine Nikki No Boats getting a Nikki No Boats, and it's paid for by someone in the thing, and it's anyway. I'm just thinking out loud now. I'm just thinking out loud too. It's what we do. Oh, there's another super chat. Shayard says this. Would love you guys to check out my comment on last night's BHN. Not now, but whenever. It's a similar perspective to many I'm hearing from Māori who support Tākuta. Yeah. I actually think that there's some really... People should go and watch the whole thing on his Instagram, because it's an interesting conversation, but I still also think that that person on his thing who said, you have to remember you didn't say this in Māori, so you don't get to kind of go... like imagine someone using a whole bunch of expletives and then go, yeah, but I could have said like this word instead of that and this word instead, and it wouldn't have been as bad. It would have meant the same things. Like, yeah, but you chose a whole bunch of expletives, so I get it. Hey, I'll go looking for it. Shayad, thank you for your super chat. Appreciate it.
I was just trying to see if YouTube would bring it up for me, but it doesn't want to.
I'll just bring it up. I didn't really even notice, Shayad. That's very generous of you. Thank you very much. You should be saving up your super chats for enamel pins here in 30 days, apparently.
Yeah, we don't want you guys depleting your mug budgets on super chats. Dedicated savings.
How much is a mug worth? What do you sell a mug for? Like 200? About $200 for one mug? Is that right?
I always the mugs appear in my house.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
Like this one when I stole it from NASA.
All right, team. Oh gosh, if I'm saying all right, team, that means it's the end of the show. That means I've got to get the credits ready, which I haven't done yet. And so I'm padding. No one can see me padding, Chewy. This is seamless.
This is so smooth.
Yeah, no one knows what's going on because I'm just doing stuff at the moment. And look, people will already be saying goodbye in the chats, and I haven't even done. People are gonna steal from me. That's good. They're gonna break into my house and steal from me. Because if they're $200 each, it'll be about $1 billion worth of mugs in my garage, something like that. Anyway, I think we're done. All right, team. Now tomorrow night, Kahurangi Kara in his house.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have said that earlier. So, Kahurangi's joining us. Tried for the last 3 weeks, had sickness, illness. It's been a bit of a shit time for her, but we will have a good old chinwag tomorrow night, 9 p.m. with Kahurangi. So if you want to be involved with that, make sure you're here. Other than that, that's about us for now, I think. That's about us. Hey.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich
Someone suggests, it's speed lock, that we should have some pre-used mugs. That'd be good. You kind of get that with the hoodies sometimes. There's a little gnarly hair on some of them occasionally that we have to get at this. Okay, so what I'm hearing is DNA in the mugs will up their value. Fantastic. Love it.
Hate that phrasing.
You hate the phrasing? Well, we're coming to the fade down bit now. You can wrap us up if you
DNA
want.
is too non-specific.
Hey, Chewy, check your Blue Sky messages.
I've just.
Oh, yeah, we had some.
I'm not
we
going
had
to
someone.
see Chloe in London and scare the shit out of her by going, hello. I'll miss her by a day.
We had someone, I think, in the inbox telling us that they're in London. They showed us their rainbow buffer shirt. Did you see that? I'll show it to you after the show. You haven't seen that. So someone wants a meetup. It's the London meetup, Chewy. Don't you know? All right, team. That means it's Chewy's last night tomorrow night. Whānau, going away party. We'll see him tomorrow night. See you all tomorrow night. Hooroo!
No, nice.